So in terms of the long-term future of our sites and the environmental pressures we face, there's a number of examples that we have across our sites of the sites looking at revegetation programs and understanding their vineyard as a system, as an integrated system, rather than a sort of simple monoculture. So particularly in the Yarra Valley, for instance, we had a vineyard that was burnt in the fires, and we're looking at new rootstocks which will help us manage environmental conditions in the future, and we've looked at a range of options there so we can cope with hotter seasons and cooler seasons and wetter and drier. But we're also working with the community to revegetate the site, so we're getting local indigenous species as boundaries for the vineyard, which helps us also with pest and disease management, where it actually we will bring in beneficial insects, and that just reduces the pressure on us to use insecticides. And it works across the group. There's Xanadu and Mount Langigaran and Parker also work with the local community and interest groups in revegetating areas of their vineyards, and so that allows the vineyard to be part of the landscape and integrated in, rather than just a functional vineyard. The way that each site approaches the vineyards is that inherently there's a current season vintage that we have to work on and really care and tender, but over the long term we have to make sure our soils are healthy, and we have to make sure that our vines are kind of well taken care of, and that means that each site acts independently, and so we don't really have a prescriptive approach, but each site really makes sure that they know really well the nutrition levels of soil, the organic matter, and we just focus on the longer term. So we do some composting and mulching programs. We tend to put our prunings back into the soil, so that's a carbon source back into the soil, and we look to, particularly in the Yarra Valley now, that we look to rootstocks to help with adaptation to environmental conditions, and wherever we do this we just try and use a good level of science. And so particularly with composting, for instance, there's a lot of nutrients that are in compost, and we can't just simply apply compost without understanding the nutritional status. So what we do is we send that off for testing, make sure we have the nutritional balance right, and we get consultation about the rates we need to apply it. So that means that when we put it out on our soils, we're delivering the exact amount of nutrition that we want. So that's the way that we kind of care for the current season, but then we just look to the longer term as well. Around the vineyards you'll see a lot of different grasses underneath and heights of the grass underneath the vineyards, and so we use sort of cover cropping and permanent sward. When we're looking at our vineyards, and particularly with sustainability, we're always trying to be efficient as we can, and then that means we look at our water use and our energy usage. We manage that, and we're highly efficient as a business in terms of irrigation and water application, and also for energy we use multi-row equipment and recovery units, so that it means that whatever we do in the vineyard is captured and reused, and we also follow that through in purchasing programs, so that we use recyclable material, and we recycle a lot in the vineyards. And that also, in terms of our vineyard as a system, we recycle the prunings back into the soil, because the prunings are a high carbon source, and so we can basically put that back into the soil, and that's just the understanding of the vineyard as a system. Currently with the vineyards, as they are a unique species, the vineyards, the regions are very much dissimilar to each other, and that's reflected in the wine, but it's also reflected in the way that the vines grow. And whenever we do something, we will generally try and measure it, and so if we're going to try a new product, we'll drop a row out, we'll do a lot of measurement, and we work with universities. We work with Provisor, which is a consultancy company. We work with a lot of industry consultants to help make sure that what we're doing is as accurate as we can, and when we do make decisions, that it's based on really sound science, and that we publish articles back to the industry. So currently I'm finishing an article for the peer-reviewed journal, which is an article on bushfire management, and so that people in the future who do suffer from bushfire can use this method as a good way of assessing and understanding their vineyard, because bushfire affects the viability of the vineyard, and so we really need to make sure that when you are affected by such things, and as a community business, that we can help each other out, because we have resources here in terms of our staff and skill set that the entire community can benefit from, and that's one of the things we aim to do. To be sustainable without water is a really complex problem to have, and water itself solves many issues. And I think that as an agricultural industry, we really have to understand that we're going to have to work with less water. And the good thing about that is that it means that it inspires innovation and adaptation. And we work with currently Melbourne University, and we do internal research programs where we actually apply specific topical, we spray them onto the vine, specific compounds that help to reduce the stress on the vines. And the industry is moving really rapidly forward to understand that we need to work with the vines to reduce water stress, and we will adapt and we will continue to manage our canopies accordingly. We will use our water really diligently, so when we irrigate it we have a lot of data there to make sure that we're putting it out precisely and that we're delivering it to the roots to make sure that the vines are healthy and can still ripen. So low water in the future presents a problem, but it also presents an opportunity that we can really be as efficient as we possibly can, but we can also open up new avenues of research, and we're currently researching that at the moment and presenting papers to the industry. Yeah, climate change is a big question, and there's a lot to that. I think that what we're certainly seeing is some greater variability in our seasons. We're seeing some changing heat patterns and changing rainfall patterns. I think that what we can clearly do is maintain our focus as being premier cool climate producers, and then, as I referred to earlier, dealing with less water. These issues present a potential area of competitive advantage for us. We can use current science, and we're doing that. We link in with the climate adaptation people at Melbourne University, and we have a number of systems available to us. We can change the vegetative growth matter of grapes so we can actually cool down the bunches, and that reduces the heat pressure. We generally we can see our harvests a little bit earlier, but in terms of the complete summation of that season's heat, it's actually not too dissimilar. It just means that the way that our grapes grow are slightly different. And at each season we review and we follow the rainfall and the heat patterns, and we adjust accordingly. I think eventually over time we're probably seeing a change in our climate, but it's not to the point that we're losing the integrity of the grapes that we make.